Gosh, okay, so I have some questions. Well, first of all, so I always go to NOAA, 'cause the government, right? But NOAA, um, they have this graphic. It's like seeing what happened, the temperatures for the month of January for the mainland, and all of the states really had above average and much above average. There was no record hot January for any state, but essentially the entire mainland was having above average temperatures, which was interesting. And then comparison to Alaska had colder than normal temperatures. So really the Arctic region is, even though it's cold, it's confusing, but it's really warming faster than the rest of the planet. But right now it seems to be in the opposite.
What's happening with January is an example of weather.
Okay.
When you look at, some of the graphics that I sent, and it's still red, that's climate. So
let me look
we had a cold January, but that's weather. When you factor in the long term, when you average it all out there, do your smoothing of whatever, it's still going to be warmer.
So
if we were to take in these temperatures there and then just incorporate into a running 30 or running 40-year average, it's still going to come out warmer.
Right, and it's difficult looking at the individual. You gotta look. Yeah, sorry, I need to finish my sentences, but my brain. Okay, so anyways, looking at an individual month versus a couple years, you're gonna have different color. Exactly. Yeah. So, but overall, the Arctic is warming. They say 2 times faster.
Here's a way to think about it. Take a graph. Let's say you have temperature on the vertical scale and time on a horizontal scale, and just have a bunch of jagged lines, right, doing that kind of stuff there. Okay, that jagged line that goes up, down, whatever, that's weather. Now fit a regression line through that, a straight line, right, and you see a positive slope there. That regression line is climate.
Okay. I gotcha.
That's the way to think about these. You look at the
so it goes up.
Yeah, look at the long-term trend. Because what is climate? Climate is long-term average of weather.
I'm writing this down. I'm a student at heart, I guess. But that makes sense because, just like the global average temperature, it's going up, but then you have years that go down and up. But overall,
exactly. And you count for seasonality, you count for locations on the planet. Exactly.
This is quite an interesting field, Jim. So I love it. It's good stuff. So I'm looking at not the article, sorry, the graphic you sent me. It's SST1. It's, I think, the warmest decade, and it's showing.
Let's see. So not the S. Okay, ERSST, that one?
Yes.
Yep.
Volume 5, temperature, January, December, warmest decade.
Yeah, warmest decade. And Alaska Fairbanks is the source, yep.
Nice. Let's see. So how do you break this down?
Well, if you look at it, pretty much most of the, and SST is sea surface temperature, so it's looking at ocean temperatures. Most of it is red.
I know, it's sad, but it's
red, yellow, and orange. And so what that means is now you look at the color chart below.
Yes.
The saying is that the warmest decade has basically been within the last 40 years for the great majority of the ocean. That's what it's telling you.
And I'm looking at below Greenland, you mentioned that blue. Is that the ice again coming off?
That's the ice, cold water currents that come down. Yeah, and again, you see that off the Antarctic Peninsula. You see that off of Greenland, and that little blue blurb off of to the west of South America. There's probably an upwelling event from an ENSO or La Nina situation.
Okay, interesting.
So that's, and basically what you see in the middle of the Pacific, of the northern Pacific gyre, the green splotches, that's just simply telling you that it had its warmest decades in the 60s. And that's just because it's, for whatever reason, that's a convergence zone. So, you know, whatever. But when you look
Yeah.
at the day, look at the Arctic Ocean, how red that is.
Yeah, my goodness.
Okay, so that's what that's telling us, is that the ocean surfaces have had their warmest decades for the last 40 years. And again, you think back to the specific heat content. Water has such a high specific heat capacity. That is an enormous amount of energy that has been inputted into the ocean. Enormous amount.
And you say, it's going to keep absorbing that energy until a certain point, and
Right, because gas solubility decreases with an increase in water temperature. So at some point, it's going to stop absorbing CO2. And at some other point, it's going to outgas CO2 back into the atmosphere,
which will further warm the planet.
which will increase the ppm levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. And by the way, that is an argument that climate deniers use to say there's no correlation between CO2 and temperature. Well, CO2 levels spike after the temperature increases. Yeah, that CO2 spike is the ocean outgassing.
Jeez.
Like
This is pretty incredible stuff, but go ahead, sorry.
It's just the CO2 levels go up, so the temperatures follow, and then there's another spike in the CO2, which is the oceans outgassing.
Wow, yeah, they're their own
I did a
system.
video on that, by the way.
Okay, I'll